Imagine surviving on just a handful of ingredients, stretching every penny as your life depended on it. During the Great Depression, families across the USA turned scarcity into creativity. And today, we're taking a step back in time to explore 23 cheap dinners that fed a nation through one of its toughest eras. They're still delicious and surprisingly practical for today's tight budgets. First, let's rewind to the 1930s. The Great Depression's economic downturn made it a daily battle to feed your family. But in true American spirit, people found ingenious ways to turn scraps into meals. Let's dive into these humble yet hearty dishes and the stories behind them. Rustic vegetable soup. My grandmother always used to cook this, a pot simmering on the stove, filling the house with the smell of comfort. Rustic vegetable soup was made from whatever produce families could gather: potatoes, carrots, celery, and maybe a handful of greens. With just salt and broth, this dish turned scraps into sustenance. It was often shared among neighbors, proving that food wasn't just about survival, it was about community. Fried corn fritters. Corn fritters were a multi-purpose marvel. Made with cornmeal, flour, and water, these fritters could be eaten on their own or paired with soup for a more filling meal. Some families added cheese or leftover vegetables for extra flavor. They were crispy, warm, and brought a sense of indulgence, even when times were tough. Grilled cheese sandwich. Grilled cheese sandwiches were simple, yet satisfying. With buttered bread crisped to golden perfection and gooey melted cheese in the middle, this dish lifted spirits on the hardest days. Adding slices of tomato or onion, when available, was a luxury that made every bite feel special. Paired with a bowl of soup, it was a meal to warm both body and soul. Egg drop soup. This dish was as quick as it was comforting. Egg drop soup started with homemade broth made from scraps, and then came the magic moment. Whisked eggs drizzled in while stirring, forming delicate ribbons. Some families added leftover vegetables or a sprinkle of herbs for extra flavor. It was light, nourishing, and made you feel cared for with every sip. Mac and cheese. Mac and cheese wasn't the creamy dish we know today. Families used just a small amount of cheese, a splash of milk, and pasta. Sometimes they stretched the sauce with a simple roux made from flour and fat. This dish wasn't just filling. It was a rare treat, a glimpse of indulgence in challenging times. For many, it brought smiles to the dinner table, even on the hardest days. Mashed potato patties. Nothing went to waste, especially not leftovers. Mashed potato patties were a brilliant way to turn last night's potatoes into something fresh and delicious. Mixed with flour and seasoning, these patties were fried until golden and crispy on the outside, with a soft, fluffy center. Popular with kids and adults alike, they were a versatile dish that worked for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Homemade vegetable pancakes. Homemade vegetable pancakes took the scraps at the bottom of the produce drawer and turned them into a meal everyone could enjoy. Carrots, zucchini, or potatoes were grated, mixed with flour, and fried into golden cakes. They were a creative way to prevent food waste while putting something nutritious on the table. And they were so tasty that even the kids didn't complain. Tomato soup with rice. This soup was a masterclass in simplicity, highlighting the ingenious use of pantry staples during the Depression era. With just canned tomatoes or tomato paste as the base, families could create a hearty and budget-friendly meal by adding a handful of rice. This combination stretched the dish, making it more filling and satisfying for everyone at the table. To enhance the flavors, a pinch of sugar could be added to balance the acidity of the tomatoes, or a sprinkle of garlic powder for a touch of savory depth. These simple additions elevated the soup, making each spoonful more comforting and enjoyable. The soup's warmth and familiar flavors brought a sense of home and security to mealtimes, making it more than just an economical choice. It was a source of comfort during challenging times. Sweet potato bisque. Sweet potato bisque brought a touch of warmth and sweetness to the dinner table. With boiled sweet potatoes blended into a creamy soup and seasoned with cinnamon or pepper, it felt like a luxury dish. It was proof that even the simplest ingredients could be transformed into something elegant. Fried green tomatoes. Fried green tomatoes added a crispy, tangy delight to the dinner table. Coated in flour or cornmeal and fried until golden, they were a Southern favorite that brought variety to Depression-era meals. Served alone or as a side dish, they reminded families that a little creativity went a long way. Baked potato bar. The baked potato bar turned a simple spud into an exciting feast, offering families a creative and interactive dining experience. Potatoes were baked until perfectly fluffy on the inside, providing a comforting and hearty base for the meal. The magic of the baked potato bar came from the variety of toppings that could be added, transforming the humble potato into a personalized and satisfying dish. Families could top their potatoes with whatever ingredients they had on hand, such as a sprinkle of cheese, a spoonful of beans, or any leftover vegetables that needed to be used up. Even a simple pat of butter could elevate the potato, adding a touch of richness. This versatility made the baked potato bar a rare chance for families to customize their meal according to their preferences and available ingredients. Hoover stew, named after President Herbert Hoover, Hoover stew was a Depression-era staple that embodied the resourcefulness and creativity of families during tough times. This hearty and filling dish was made by combining macaroni, canned tomatoes, or other canned vegetables, and hot dogs or any affordable meat in one pot. Cooked together until the flavors melded, it provided a satisfying and budget-friendly meal that could feed a large family. The use of inexpensive, shelf-stable ingredients made it a go-to dish both in community soup kitchens and at home. Potato leek soup was a lesson in letting simple ingredients shine. With just potatoes, leeks, and broth, this dish transformed humble components into a rich, creamy, and flavorful meal. The process began by sautéing sliced leeks until softened, releasing their delicate and mild flavor. Potatoes were then added to the pot along with water or broth, and everything was simmered together until the potatoes became tender. Once cooked, the mixture was mashed or blended, resulting in a smooth and velvety texture that felt indulgent despite its humble origins. This hearty soup was often served with a slice of bread on the side, offering a warm and satisfying meal that helped families through colder months when fresh produce was harder to come by. Potato leek soup showcased the natural flavors of its ingredients, proving that a satisfying meal didn't need to be complicated or extravagant. Today, this classic remains popular, sometimes made richer with cream or herbs, but its Depression-era roots remind us of the beauty and simplicity and the comfort it can bring. Rice pudding with raisins. Rice pudding with raisins was a delightful way to transform day-old rice into a sweet and comforting treat. Made with simple ingredients like milk, sugar, and a handful of raisins, this dessert was both creamy and satisfying. The rice was simmered until it reached a creamy consistency, and the raisins added bursts of sweetness and a pleasant chewy texture. Often personalized with a dash of cinnamon or vanilla extract if available, rice pudding with raisins remained a beloved dessert that brought warmth and joy to many households, even during tough times. Mock apple pie. Mock apple pie was a Depression-era marvel that showcased the ingenuity of home cooks during a time of scarcity. This clever dessert used crackers, typically Ritz or saltines, soaked in a sweet mixture of sugar, cinnamon, lemon juice, and butter, to mimic the taste and texture of apple pie. When baked, the crackers softened and took on a surprisingly apple-like flavor and texture, fooling even the sharpest taste buds. This resourceful treat brought a smile to every dinner table, offering a sweet and comforting end to a meal when fresh apples were out of reach. Peanut butter stuffed celery. Peanut butter stuffed celery was a quick, nutritious, and affordable snack that combined the crunch of celery with the creaminess of peanut butter. This simple yet satisfying dish was a hit among kids and appreciated by parents for its affordability and nutritional value. The addition of raisins provided a touch of sweetness, making it even more enjoyable. Requiring no cooking, peanut butter stuffed celery was an easy-to-make treat that offered a perfect balance of protein and fiber, providing a quick energy boost and a bit of variety to daily meals. Water pie, made from little more than water, sugar, flour, and butter, it became a creamy, custard-like treat that brought joy to the table. During the COVID-19 pandemic in the 2020s, a recipe for water pie from 1929 Great Depression-era cookbooks gained popularity on TikTok and food blogs due to its affordability and simplicity. It's safe to say that this recipe indeed aged like fine wine. Potato candy. Who would have thought a potato could become candy? This Depression-era recipe turned a humble boiled potato into a sweet, chocolate-covered treat. By mashing the potato and mixing it with sugar, families created a base that could be flavored, shaped, and coated in melted chocolate. Potato candy was perfect for stretching limited ingredients and brought joy to rainy days or special occasions. Whether garnished with toasted coconut, chopped nuts, or sprinkles, these candies were a surprise hit that delighted kids and adults alike. And the best part? They froze beautifully. Grandma Davidson's baked apple pudding. This was a treasure born from tough times, combining tart apples with simple pantry staples like flour, sugar, and cinnamon. This dessert brought a little sweetness to lean days. Topped with boiling water before baking, it created a caramelized crust over a soft spiced pudding. Served warm with a scoop of vanilla ice cream, if you were lucky, it was the perfect way to end a meal. This pudding was more than just dessert. It was a reminder that even in hardship, there's always room for comfort. Spaghetti with boiled carrots and white sauce. This simple dish was famously inspired by Eleanor Roosevelt, who worked with home economists to develop budget-friendly meals for American families during the Depression. Spaghetti and carrots were boiled together for efficiency, then topped with a basic white sauce made from butter, flour, and milk. The dish was light on cost, but big on practicality. It's a perfect example of how simple ingredients, when combined with a bit of ingenuity, could feed families without breaking the bank. Roosevelt's recipe proved that even during the hardest times, food could still bring nourishment and dignity. Old-fashioned goulash. Old-fashioned goulash wasn't just a meal. It was a household favorite that brought everyone to the table. Hearty ground beef, tender macaroni, and a rich tomato sauce seasoned with garlic and Worcestershire sauce made it a true crowd pleaser. Topped with a touch of cheddar cheese, it had just the right balance of comfort and practicality. This dish was quick to prepare, stored well for leftovers, and satisfied even the hungriest families. Every bite of goulash was a taste of home, reminding families that good food didn't have to be complicated to be cherished. Grandma's frozen fruit salad. Grandma's frozen fruit salad is a cool, nostalgic delight that brings sweetness to any occasion. This vintage recipe, handed down through generations, is a twist on marshmallow fruit salad, but with the refreshing surprise of being frozen. Made with fruit cocktail, marshmallows, and a creamy base, it was perfect for holidays or hot summer days. Families would slice it into squares, serving it as a side dish or light dessert. Recipes like this remind us of the joy that simple, creative dishes brought to the table, even during hard times. Hamburger stew, often called poor man's stew. Hamburger stew is anything but poor in flavor. With a base of sautéed onions, celery, and garlic, lean ground beef is cooked alongside hearty vegetables like potatoes, carrots, and peas. Thickened with flour and enriched with tomato paste, Worcestershire sauce, and beef broth, this stew was a complete one-pot meal that families could stretch for days. Ready in under an hour, it was a lifesaver for busy families looking to fill their bellies without emptying their wallets. Every spoonful is a reminder of the ingenuity it took to create comfort food in challenging times. From soups to sweets, Depression-era meals weren't just about feeding the body, they fed the soul. These dishes show us the resilience and creativity of those who came before us. Which one will you try first? Let's honor their ingenuity by sharing their stories, and maybe a grilled cheese or two.